Hello, here's the second mini lecture. This is the first half of chapter 2, the physical geography and the environment chapter. The first concept that I want to talk about is plate tectonics. And basically, plate tectonics means that the shell, the outer shell of the Earth, called the crust, is actually broken up into pieces, and those pieces move independently of one another. We call each one of those pieces a plate. And what this figure is showing you is why those plates move. Basically, there's heat generated inside of the Earth that flows up, as heat tends to do, when it reaches the surface. So here we see it, heat flowing up. Basically, you can think of it as molten rock flowing up, and when it reaches the surface, it cools, and then it sinks back down. So what it does, it establishes what's called a convection cell. Okay, so that's a heat transfer cell. So as those cells move around, as the molten rock moves around because of these cells, then the plates are carried by that movement from those cells, and they move on the surface. What it means is that the plates sometimes separate from one another, as you can see here in the middle of the picture. These two plates are in a diverging plate boundary, meaning that they're moving away from one another. Whereas here we have two plates that are actually colliding against one another. When plates move, they create, when they collide, or when they move apart from one another, they create friction, they create earthquakes, volcanoes. Here we can see boundaries. So where the plates meet is where all the action is. So here, for instance, we have the Nazca plate meeting the South American plate. So here in this area, in the Pacific coast of South America, Central America, and North America, we see on the, all kinds of plate boundaries. And in these places, we find earthquakes, we find volcanoes, and we can see that, Italy, for instance, it's a place that recently has been having a lot of earthquake activity, and you can see it sits near a plate boundary. So locations that are far away from plate boundaries, such as the east coast of the United States, tend not to have earthquakes or volcanoes. Here is a picture of the San Andreas Fault, which is our local um, expression of a plate boundary and a source of danger for because of earthquakes, of the earthquakes that may be caused by the fault. Okay, climate, solar energy, latitude, land-water interaction, all these are, etc., are uh, controls, things that determine the kind of climate we have. And basically, climate is determined by both temperature and precipitation. So, for example, latitude, places that are farther than from the equator tend to be colder, such as, Canada, Alaska. Land-water interaction, places that are close to the large bodies of water, mainly the ocean, tend to have milder climates, and not so harsh, like here in California, not so harsh. Winters or even summers tend to be ameliorated by being close to the water. Um, the greenhouse effect, that is a big one. That's a big topic because we'll be talking about global warming and why it happens. But here, what you need to remember is that the greenhouse effect itself is natural. And if we didn't have it, the Earth would be frozen, completely frozen over. So we do need to have some greenhouse effect. Basically, what the greenhouse effect is, insolation or incoming solar radiation coming from the sun strikes the Earth, warms the Earth up. The Earth sends back some of that heat back to space, but the gases in the atmosphere, mainly carbon dioxide, also methane, also water vapor, absorb some of that heat and send it back to the Earth, keeping the Earth warm. Of course, eventually, a lot of heat is lost to space, but if we didn't have the greenhouse effect, we would lose it immediately, and the Earth would be very cold. So it's good that we have it. The problem is when you have too much of a good thing, it's not good anymore, right? So it's good to have one piece of cake, but not an entire cake at one sitting. So here, the problem that we're having on Earth is that we're having too much greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect has been enhanced by human activity, namely the addition of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases that tend to trap more heat than we want, uh, resulting in an increase in temperature. Okay, so here the heat on Earth. Remember, if you're close to the equator, you're going to get more solar radiation, more solar radiation coming in, but that heat is distributed. So ocean currents, wind, those move heat around so that places that are farther from the equator get some of the heat, and it doesn't stay all in one place. As I said, places close to the water tend to have milder climates just because water takes longer to cool and longer to warm up than land. Pressure cells, all that means is wind flows from places that have high pressure to places that have low pressure. So this helps create wind movement. And again, that helps redistribute heat throughout the planet. The orographic effect, meaning that when you have a mountain, one side of the mountain, the side that is facing the wind will be wetter, because as wind rises over the mountain, it cools, and as it cools, the water or the moisture inside that air condenses out and it rains on what we call the windward side of the mountain. The back side of the mountain tends to be dry. So we see that here in California, for instance, the Sierra Mountains, our main mountain range, the western side of the mountains is a lot wetter than the eastern side, because that's the side that is facing the wind flow. And here we have the different climates. I don't expect you to learn all these codes, but do try to learn the difference between A, B, C, D, E. Well, F climates are not actually climates, they're just mountain regions that vary, whose climate varies, but try to learn all these different ones. So A climates tend to be tropical climates, so they're wet. So those are closer to the equator. Dry climates are B, so these are either desert climates or steppe, which is grassland. So here we see, we have in the US, we have desert climates in the southwest and dry grassland climates, throughout the west and the Midwest. And if you look at Asia, the big steppes are found in this area as well. Mid-latitude climates, that would be us, that would be California. So we have a climate that is mild and so not too extreme. So the west coast of North America has that. Chile and a lot of Europe has this mild climate. A lot of China, so not too hot, not too cold, kind of nice climate. And then here's the continental climates. Continental means that they have extreme weather, so very cold summers, very cold winters, very hot summers, and we can see that most of Canada has a D climate. and the north, central, eastern U.S. has a deep climate. So think Chicago, think New York, where it gets very cold in the winter, snowy and all that. And Eastern Europe, Russia, we see has a deep climate. Notice that you don't see deep climates in the southern hemisphere. We don't see them in Australia or in Africa or in South America, just because the southern hemisphere has a lot more water than land. And as I said, water moderates temperatures and makes them milder. So we never see the harsh deep climates in the southern hemisphere. And last but not least, the polar climates, those are the very, very cold climates closer to the poles. The last thing here is global climate change. As I said, this is going to be an important topic this semester because it's, I believe, one of the major, if not the major environmental crisis that we're facing as a civilization. So try to understand what it means. As I said, it's an enhanced greenhouse effect, but it is having and it will continue to have a lot of consequences. The increase in temperature that we see, it's going to drive storms are going to be stronger. We're going to have more floods, more droughts. We're going to have sea level rise, flooding places, coastal places. So lots of not very good things happening. And this week you have a discussion where you're trying to find a news article on the effect of global warming or climate change on the environment. So the term climate change means that we're not only looking at the earth warming, but we're also looking at all kinds of extreme climates or change in climate that we had not seen before.